Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel that takes you deep inside the San Francisco 49ers. I am your host, Jack Hammer, and today we're going to take a look at three things that Trey Lance does really well. Three things that separate him, that really were part of what made him a guy that the 49ers wanted to use the number 3 pick in the draft for back in 2021. And we're going to start off with intelligence, and that's one of the things that really jumps off the screen when you look at Trey Lance, even in the pre-draft process. Back during his time at North Dakota State, he would often get to the line of scrimmage and he'd be making the calls on his own. And that's not something you see a lot of in today's college game. A lot of times, you watch that quarterback, he gets up to the line of scrimmage, the offense gets set, and then they stop, they look, turn to the sideline and wait for their coach to give them a signal, tell them what to do. Then they tell everybody else. Well, it was different for Trey Lance. He'd get up to the line of scrimmage, he'd scan the defense, and then he'd make the call. He would decide what that front side play was going to be in terms of the passing game. Then he'd call what the complementary piece was for the backside, and he did that quite a bit. And that's one of the things that really about Trey Lance, again, that intelligence piece, and that carried on over to the 49ers. And he picked up the playbook very quickly. There's some things that he needs to work on with that, but that intelligence, that smarts that he brings, that's definitely one of the top things about Trey Lance that the 49ers liked about him, and one of the things that made him worthy of the number 3 selection in 2021. Number 2, Trey Lance is a leader. There's no doubting that. You can say what you want about his play on the field, but he's a leader. And for me, the one thing that really stood out was Trey Lance at the podium after the Week 1 loss to the Chicago Bears. He had every excuse in the book that he could turn to. He could blame it on the rain. He could talk about not having George Kittle. He could talk about, guys that were missing, losing Elijah Mitchell in the first half. He could have given a number of excuses to the performance that day, and he didn't do it. Trey Lance stood up at the podium, he answered every question, and he took responsibility for every mistake that he made. And that's a leader, and that's somebody that you get behind. And I think the players appreciate that as well. And that is one of the top things with Lance. He shows that intelligence, number 1. Number 2, he's a very good leader, and he's somebody that the team can get behind, especially if they're winning games. And number 3 for Trey Lance, and the reasons of why he is so good, the positives with Trey Lance, his threat in the running game. Our good friend Rich Madrid does a lot of film work with the 49ers, and he did some work during the end of the season where he looked at all of the offense with Trey Lance, in particular their run game, and taking that a step farther, the run game when Trey Lance was in shotgun. So that's where he actually becomes a threat. And on running plays where there was a mesh between the quarterback and the running back, meaning he's actually faking a run or giving the run to a running back, the 49ers had 16 of those attempts. They gained 157 yards and they scored a touchdown. So that's almost an average of 10 yards per rushing attempt when they got into the shotgun with Trey Lance, ran a mesh between the quarterback and the running back, and ran the ball. That's fantastic. Included among those is the long 51-yard run by Deebo Samuel against the Seahawks in Week 2. But even if you take that out, you're now left with 15 carries for 156 yards, or 106 yards, excuse me. That's still over 7 yards a carry. Highly efficient, very good run game, and something that really fits in with the 49ers and what they like to do. That's the whole thing, and it's one of the reasons for me personally why I've never understood the people who dislike the way that Kyle Shanahan calls this offense with Trey Lance. That whole running game piece is a big part of why they liked Trey Lance. A big part of what drew them to him was his ability to run, was what he could do in the running game, how he could affect the defense, how he can impact that, and then his ability to make some throws off of that in play action. He showed that at North Dakota State, and we're seeing, especially in the running game piece, how he performs here with the 49ers and his impact on that running game when he's out there. So that's one of the benefits. You look back, let's go through those again really quick. Number 1, intelligence. Number 2, leadership. Number 3, that threat in the run game for Trey Lance. You got to like it. And that's one of the things where if Trey Lance is the backup quarterback for the 49ers, or even if he's the starting quarterback, with guys like Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason back there with them, this is a team that should be able to run the ball. And then you get a little bit of pass off of that to keep the defense honest. So good things for the 49ers. We'll see how it all plays out. Training camp's going to be coming up in just a little over a month. It's going to be very exciting for 49er fans. And if you're a football fan in general, watch out for the 49ers and their quarterback situation. And there you have it. Your 3 things for Trey Lance. Once again, intelligence, leadership, and the threat in the run game as far as the 3 positives going forward with Trey Lance. Take it for what it's worth. Hey, thank you all for tuning in. If you could do me a favor before you leave, hit that like button. And then also, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button. And then turn on your notifications so you don't miss any of the updates right here on Inside the Farms with Jack Hammer. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day. I'll be talking with you soon.